Madam President, I ask consent that the following statement I'm about to make be placed in a separate part of the record.
Without objection.
Madam President, during the first part of the July recess, I traveled with several of my Senate colleagues to the historic NATO summit in Madrid, Spain. On Tuesday, several members of our bipartisan group, Senators Shaheen, Tillis, Coons, Ernst, and Blunt, spoke on the floor about the trip. Senator Fisher was also with us at that summit meeting. I think Senator Tillis of North Carolina said it best, that despite policy differences within our group of senators, there was no daylight between us on two profoundly important matters. We agree Finland and Sweden should be welcomed into NATO, and we also agree the illegal, barbaric war on Ukraine by Russian dictator Vladimir Putin must not succeed. At the summit, we met with leaders from a number of our allies, including for the first time, leaders from the Indo-Pacific region who joined the NATO summit. Japanese Prime Minister Kishida was clear when he told us the security of Europe and the Indo-Pacific are inseparable. And German Chancellor Scholz expressed an unwavering commitment to take as long as needed to make sure Ukraine retains its sovereignty against Russia's barbaric aggression. But perhaps what was most notable was the overwhelming sense of unity and defense of common values found among our NATO allies in the face of Russian aggression. For that, I want to give President Biden credit. He spent an hour or more with our bipartisan delegation at the summit meeting. He and his able team, Secretary of State Blinken, Secretary of Defense Austin, and others, met with us and discussed in detail what was being debated at the summit. I've been traveling to Eastern Europe and meeting with allies for many years. I can tell you I've never felt such a shared sense of purpose and determination to stop the Russian threat. As Senator Tillis noted on Tuesday, our safety at home is inextricably linked to the security of Europe. Our bipartisan delegation understood this, the world leaders at the NATO summit understood it, and President Biden certainly understands it. Vladimir Putin would serve his people well by understanding it as well. In the Senate, we can help Putin understand the unbreakable unity and resolve the world's democracies by being one of the first NATO member nations to approve Finland and Sweden's membership. We should do that without delay. Before arriving at the NATO summit in Spain, I joined my colleagues in visiting one of the prospective new NATO aspirants, Sweden. Sweden has long been a security ally. For nearly 200 years, it's tried to maintain a semblance of non-alignment. That changed swiftly with Vladimir Putin's aggression. It triggered an overwhelming Swedish support to join NATO. And Sweden began shipping weapons to Ukraine to help in the war effort, something it hadn't done since helping Finland resist Nazi aggression in 1939. Swedish leaders recognize Russia's aggression today as the same kind of behavior seen in Europe in World War II. They know that the collective NATO security arrangement is critical to stopping Russia. I agree completely and look forward to their NATO membership. Putin thought he could fracture NATO by invading Ukraine. Look what he did. He stoked petty grievances against NATO, and in the end, we are picking up two valuable, important allies. And incidentally, Vladimir Putin, you're now going to have 800 miles of new NATO territory on your border. I was unable to join my colleagues who visited Finland as their first stop, as I was in Lithuania, a Baltic state with long memories of Russian tyranny. In no place in the value of the collective NATO defense more starkly than in the Baltic states, which Putin no doubt would like to forcibly return to Soviet dystopia. Lithuanian leaders, including President Nausėda, Speaker of the Parliament, Kamilė Nielsen, are keenly aware of the Russian threat. But Lithuania is undeterred in helping its neighbors in Ukraine and Belarus stand up to Russian aggression. And they're unafraid to stand up to the Chinese bullies as well. I was glad again to spend time with Valdis Adamkus, a highly successful Lithuanian immigrant to Chicago who returned back to his homeland of Lithuania and successfully ran for president. He was there shortly after Lithuania gained its independence from the Soviet Union. President Adamka's historic leadership and foresight helped bring Lithuania not only into the European Union, but equally important, into NATO. And for that, the Lithuanian Parliament recently honored his achievements. Quite simply, Lithuania is safer today because of his vision. The awe and esteem Lithuanians feel for this historic leader was clear from the reverence shown by the Lithuanian people. I also want to mention the tireless work of Belarusian opposition leader Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, who lives in Lithuania after fleeing from Belarus from the henchmen of the strongman leader Alexander Lukashenko. You see, 2 years ago, her husband Sergei ran for president against Lukashenko. We know from history that anybody who is courageous enough to run against Lukashenko is going to end up in prison after the sham elections, which he stages with regularity. Lukashenko, worried that he couldn't win a fair election, jailed Sergei, her husband. Rather than back down in fear, Svetlana, the wife, ran in his place. She probably won the rigged election, but had to flee with her family, leaving Sergei to face an outrageous 18-year prison sentence. This is a picture of Sergei Tikhanovsky facing an 18-year sentence in the Belarusian prison because he had the temerity to challenge Lukashenko. Now his wife, a courageous woman if I've ever met one, is trying to plead his cause and is safely with her children in Lithuania. Thousands upon thousands of Belarusians protested the stolen election. 1,200 were jailed as a result of it, including Sergei. Putin helped Lukashenko at that moment of crisis, and Lukashenko is now repaying Putin by using Belarus as a staging ground to attack and kill Ukrainians. Many brave Belarusians still resist, sabotaging Russian supply lines, fighting alongside your Ukrainian brothers and sisters. They understand the fate of Ukraine is tied to their own fate and that Putin must not prevail. Yesterday, I introduced a resolution with Senator Tillis, Shaheen, Van Hollen, Markey, Fisher, Cardin, and Rubio, recognizing the second anniversary of this stolen election, the historic peaceful protest, the continued heroic efforts of the Belarusian people, and those still languishing in their nation's jails. They and their fight for freedom and democracy cannot be forgotten. And I urge the administration to continue its support for their effort by appointing a new special envoy for Belarus without delay. Let me conclude with a note of thanks to the many fine members of our State Department Foreign Service who work tirelessly to represent our diplomatic interests overseas and also make these congressional visits possible. They, along with our military service members serving around the world, are national treasures. I thank them for their service, and I yield the floor.